I'm like, that's it? They're like, really? This is where my story ends? I thought I was gonna be like David, or I thought I was gonna be Moses. Like, I thought that I was one of the characters where my name got mentioned. And it was like one of those things I was afraid to ever say out loud, because I'm like, what if I'm the person that can't ever win something?
9 seconds left. Helen Maroulis with a 3-point advantage here. Helen Maroulis gonna dance her way into history for the United States. The first ever Olympic gold medal for a women's wrestler in U.S. history.
Training to me is like my therapy, my outlet. It's my place for self-expression, for creativity. So it's where I get to bring like my best authentic self into the world and into what I do and through what I love. And so for me right now, that's through the sport of wrestling. I started wrestling when I was 7 years old. I have an older and a younger brother, and they both had joined the team, and my younger brother was too small, so the coach told my mom to just bring him back next year, and my mom didn't want to do that, so she told me to just take my shoes off and be my brother's dummy. And after about 2 weeks of hard work, sprints, push-ups, everything, I went to my parents and I said, hey, this isn't fair. I'm doing all the hard work the boys are doing, but they get to compete and I don't. So my dad makes a bet with me that I can wrestle one match, and if I win that match, I can keep wrestling. So that was the only match I won all year, but I won it. I was 1-30 my first year, but I got to keep wrestling. There's definitely many challenges that I faced growing up as the only girl wrestling on an all-boys team. I grew up in Maryland, and at the time there was only 5 states out of 50 that had girls state-sanctioned wrestling, and mine wasn't one of them. So I grew up wrestling the boys. A lot of times they didn't like that, the parents didn't like that, the coaches didn't like that. Sometimes the coaches would put me with the best guys in the room and just have them rotate in on me and tell them to just wrestle me so hard until I quit, or to hurt me, or to just basically try and get me to not come back. Parents would be screaming names, curse words, whatever, out on the mat while I was wrestling. And yeah, sometimes the guys would kind of like bully me or tease me. And then there's just a lot of other things that you have to think about too, just how you present yourself, and a coach is judging why you're there, what your motives are, and it just feels like you're always having to prove yourself. Or it taught me how to go above and beyond and just go the extra mile and be really laser dialed in and focused. It's interesting because I think there's a stigma in wrestling that all wrestlers are super tough, and I know that I'm tough, but I wouldn't say that I grew up just naturally being tough or thinking I was tough. I think what made me tough in wrestling was actually just a deep love for it that produced a perseverance. There's not any defining moment that sticks out where a coach was, trying to make me quit, or when guys were trying to hurt me or like kind of beat me up. It's more just I was honestly kind of oblivious to a lot of that stuff. I just remember loving wrestling so much and just thinking like, well, if this is what I have to go through in order to do what I love, I'm just going to keep pushing through. I think it'll get better. I believe it will get better, and people are going to come around. And so the defining moment it wasn't anything big. I think it was just a lot of little things over time. And the thing that sticks out to me the most was just my love for wrestling. And I loved doing what I do. And I think it was more like, nobody's going to take this away from me. Like, I don't care what you throw at me. I love to do this, and you're not going to get in the way of that. I think every kid, when they get into a sport, they're looking for a role model, or someone's going to stick out to them. And what was unique is that when I joined, women's wrestling wasn't even an Olympic sport yet. And so I only had male Olympic champions to look up to. But I went to camps and clinics, and I got their autographs, and I had their posters, hanging up on my wall, but I didn't relate to any of them. And I just felt like, how am I going to be a champion if I can't emulate them or be like them? And then when women's wrestling got added to the Olympics, I would say the 2004 Olympic team, I got to go to the first ever camp and just train alongside all these women. And I had no business being there, but I was so inspired just by them, their work ethic, the way they were talking about things, the way that they were eating in the cafeteria and everything. So And there's definitely been many more women that have come through that have just inspired me. Have I faced any new stigmas? You know, it's hard for me to kind of think about that stuff because I think I'm so focused on my goal and everything is just that and working backwards. So I'm sure when I pause and take time in, I'm sure there's some things that I can think of. I definitely see that women's wrestling, the landscape for that has changed, and so young girls don't have to go through some of the things that myself and the older women and previous generations had to go through. And for me, it's like, I just want to keep paving the way and making this a great space for girls and women to be in. Oh man, that's so hard. You know, there's a part of me that doesn't want to tell my younger self anything because I like everything that I went through. It got me here and I like where I am today. But I think I would definitely also want to encourage my younger self to just not be so hard on myself and not get so hung up about things. You know, everything's going to work out.
Helen, nobody can make a mistake in Helen. I'll tell you.
Just trust who you are and trust what you're doing. You believe in yourself and you just keep going.